1961, God plants the gospel here in Mandarin. When we talk about churches being planted, we're not talking about buildings being planted, right? The church is not the building. The church is who? It's the people. It's the people. God calls a group of people to move to a neighborhood or a community and share the gospel with those people. And so 1961, God sent a group of people to plant a church here in the heart of Mandarin. You have to think about it as a seed that's planted. And over time, it grows and it blossoms. And it's been amazing to see how our church has grown and blossomed over the years. So this was the first sanctuary. The first sanctuary. Now, you may recognize that building. Which building is that? That's the building with the pastor's offices and our offices in it over there. It's all carved up into other things now, but you can see, look at those boys in the confirmation class with double-breasted suits on. That's pretty impressive. How many of you, is there anybody here who actually worshiped in that sanctuary? Anybody? I think last week we had a couple of folks, so a few people that did that. We had style back then, right? Look at this potluck. If you need proof of global warming, just look at the fact that we used to be able to have potlucks with full suits on in Florida. That's wild. That is wild. We've always eaten well. Okay, this is the second sanctuary. Does this look familiar to any of you? Okay, so which building is this? It's the fellowship hall and the chapel, right? It used to have a steeple. That was actually built as the sanctuary. The second sanctuary is the fellowship hall, and it was a very different looking sanctuary. How many of you worshiped in fellowship hall as the sanctuary? It was a few years ago. It was an exciting place. It's been really interesting seeing some of the pictures, and I'll show you some of those in a minute. Okay, now who knows what building is being constructed in that top left-hand corner? Bob. You can just tell that that's Bob. You can smell it from here. It's great. It's great. Yes, Bob was under construction. And finally, this sanctuary. Now, how many of you have worshiped in this sanctuary? Okay, that's an easy question. But man, how the times have changed, how the church has grown, how we have seen God's faithfulness, but so many things remain the same, right? Worship looks a little different. This was Easter Sunday from this past year, from this past Easter. Or how about this throwback from Youth Sunday several years ago? So that's in the sanctuary, in the fellowship hall. So you can see the fellowship hall looked a lot different than it does now. And don't you appreciate that on Youth Sunday, we don't make you wear robes. We don't make you wear the pastor's robe. I can only imagine if Parker could have worn the pastor's robe for his testimony this past year. But we've seen over the years of people coming to faith of all generations growing up in the church. We see familiar faces, we see current faces, we see those who've gone before us, those who have shared the gospel from generation to generation. We see the impact that we have on the community, that God has had on the community serving through our church, and the amazing place that He has brought us to today. So this is when this was a construction site, the future home of Mandarin Presbyterian Church. I love the fact that we're a church that was that seed planted almost 65 years ago that God has tended to, that His Spirit has watered, and we have seen this amazing outreach to the community. We have incredible missions ministries, but we have people's lives being transformed. So when we think about our mission statement, we long to see more people moving towards Jesus. Not more people moving towards MPC, not more and more for me and mine. I said it a couple of weeks ago that the goal of this campaign is not more buildings, but we want to see more people moving towards Jesus. And we want to make room for them. We want to make room for people's lives to be changed. We want to do what it takes for other people to experience transformation in Jesus. And so the way that God has knit this community together, the way that he has created our DNA for serving him, we see it going all the way back 61 years. Our first core value is Jesus first. That is the cornerstone of everything. We are going to proclaim Jesus above every other name, and we are going to dig deeper into his word. We are a church with every generation. When you go to either of our worship services on Sunday, or you are looking at our ministries throughout the week, you see every generation present, from the youngest to the oldest, and all of those generations are moving towards Jesus. We believe in deep-spirited community, to be in a church where you are known and you know others, where you can go for help and connection, where we can pray for each other. We can support and encourage one another. We're a church with courageous faith, that when we see a need out in the community, we respond. I remember right after we moved here, there were 2 hurricanes who came across Florida. One of them devastated Southwest Florida. And so a group of guys in our church, they felt called by God and moved to raise money and then build a shower trailer all by themselves. I can't even fix a toilet at home, let alone build a shower trailer. So they built this shower trailer with 4 functioning showers, and then 2 washer-dryer units in there, and they took it to Southwest Florida and donated that to the relief effort. But we see things like that over and over again. Where there's a need, this church responds and steps up to the plate. And we believe in whole life generosity. That generosity isn't just about giving money, but it's about being well-rounded in our generosity. We give of our time and our talents as well. This generosity that God has called us to, it's not just about how we use our money, but it's how our hearts are postured towards one another. Generosity, a generous heart, has forgiveness. A generous heart has grace and mercy. A generous heart is willing to stop and go out of our way to help those who are in need. And this is a church. You are a church who does that. We have seen over the last few years growth in every demographic in our church. We've seen growth in our children and in our student ministry. We've seen growth in our college and young adults. We've seen growth in our families. We've seen growth in our empty nesters. We've seen growth in our more mature generations. Everybody's seeking to grow closer to God and deeper in his word. That is so important to me as a pastor and important to our church. We want to take our steps closer to Jesus and go deeper in his word. We have maxed out so many different parts of our building, and God keeps bringing more and more people to our church. I think about the opportunity that is Jacksonville right now. Of all the major cities in the state of Florida, I feel like something significant is happening in our city. That there is something afoot, that we're going to see our city grow and become more and more influential and critical in our nation and in the world. And we get to be a part of that. We get to be a church that is shaping the next generation of leaders for our city. I have no problem believing and knowing that there are people in this sanctuary right now who will be leaders in our community, leaders in our state, leaders in our world, who we want to be shaped by God's word. We want them to be influencers for Jesus. I think about our opportunity in the culture, that all of the craziness that's been going on in the culture around us over the last 5 or 6 years, that God is doing something. God is doing something new in our culture. During COVID, when we were separated from each other, we realized how badly we need connection and we need community. That it used to be that the only thing you needed to go to church for was to hear a sermon, but now you can go online and you can hear whoever your favorite preacher is. You can hear them anytime you want. But now we realize that what the church provides and offers is genuine relationship and connection. To be known, to have an experience of Christ in church. One of the things that we've looked at as a session, as the pastors, is this webinar on how AI will impact your church. And there are some very interesting things with that. There were all sorts of statistics about false intimacy and people proposing their AI assistants and replacing relationships with AI friendships and all of these types of things. But his punchline with this was, the more artificial the world gets, the more human the church can become. Like, we can be that human connection that God uses to transform lives. We have tremendous opportunities ahead of us, and I believe that God has positioned us to make a significant impact. But we have some challenges. We have some challenges to that. Now, I want to say up front, I love the quads. I have lots of great memories in the quads. That's where the search committee interrogated me on my interviews. I have had several scamp groups in the quads. I've had Bible studies, cover to cover, used the quads. Lots of wonderful things have happened in the quads. Did you know that in 2017, up until 2017, Sunday school was happening at the other campus and students were being bused to this campus from the other campus? Can you imagine that? That was problematic. That was difficult. And so the church said, okay, we've got to do something about this. We don't know what the long-term vision is, but we need to do something to bring everybody together on this campus. And so the temporary solution were the quads. The quads were brought here for that purpose. One of my early memories here at the church, and one of my favorite memories, and I don't think I know of any other pastor in the United States who could say this, but one of my favorite memories was my first finance committee meeting. My first finance committee meeting. And now, for those of you who haven't been to a finance committee meeting, just imagine meeting with a bunch of accountants who are wonderful people, but it can be a little difficult. But I'll never forget, we're in the finance committee meeting, and you have the trustees who are bringing a list of everything that's falling apart and things that need to be painted, things that need to be fixed, things that are leaking to the finance committee for the finance committee to figure out a way to pay for it. This is what facility groups do with finance group at churches. And so one of the things in there is that the roofs were failing on the quads. So they said, we need to replace the roofs. So they talked about it, the finance committee talked about it, trustees talked about it, and where they landed was the quads were always a temporary solution. Slap some tar on those things and let's figure out what the long-term solution is. And what that told me as a new pastor is that this church has been longing for that next step, that God has been working in this church and working in you to prepare us for that next step. Okay, did you know this? So when this sanctuary was built, which December 17th is going to be the 25th anniversary of the first worship service in this building, 25 years ago. So when this building was built, there was a phase 1 and a phase 2. So phase 1 is everything you see here. Phase 2 was a youth and children's building and a fellowship hall, 2 large buildings out there on either side of the lion's paws, as I've heard them described as. So phase 1 was done, and phase 1 is beautiful. But phase 2 was not, for various reasons. For various reasons, it was not done. And so it's kind of obvious when you come into our church that once you get past the sanctuary, we're out of space. We're out of space. The room that our children are in back there, that was never designed to be children's space. Or you look at our adult classrooms there off of the courtyard, they are packed on Sunday mornings. The quads, they're temporary solutions. And they're nearing the end of life on those temporary solutions. If you go over to the Mandarin campus, during the week, we are out of office space. We're doubling up offices. We have plumbing issues. We have roofing issues. They're an aging building. But also, if you go to Crave, which Crave is Sunday nights or Hang 10 on Wednesday nights, y'all fill up the building. Y'all are filling up every square inch on that campus and filling it up with ministry. And there's a difference between a room being full and a room being crowded, right? So when you come into a room, you want it to feel full. When it feels full, it feels like something significant is happening. But when it feels crowded, it feels like there's not enough room for me. And we're getting to that place. We're getting to that place. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a night where we had a potluck dinner or a pizza dinner and it was raining and we could fit everybody in the lobby? How about that? How about that? But we have some challenges, great opportunities in front of us, some challenges ahead of us, and how do we make room for more people to move towards Jesus? So I'm going to invite Brian Paul up to talk about our specific projects. Brian is our director of operations. Brian has been a godsend for us as a church. His first Sunday here, visiting the church was Sticky Note Sunday. How many of you were here for Sticky Note Sunday? Thousands of sticky notes that y'all filled out in the session, and pastors prayed through every single one of those and prayed through those, talked through those. But Brian came on board about 2.5 years ago and has been a great partner in ministry and leader in our church. So I'm going to let Brian take it over from here to talk about our projects.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to let you know that I count it a great blessing and a great privilege to be up here and to share these drawings with you guys. We started about over a year ago. We started the session, approved 5 individuals, myself, Andrew, and 3 elders, to pursue this project and figure out what we wanted to do, and this is what we came up with. So over that year, we had bubbled up all the ideas and thoughts to the elders, and here we are. So first up, and this is in order of how we would proceed through the projects. There's three main projects. And if this works right, I should be able to, oh, there it is. See that red dot? Okay. What this is, the red line is the new space. And you can see right here, I'm entering into a new lobby space, which we built and connected to the current front lobby space. And then this box over here, which Andrew mentioned earlier, what is going to be the next gen building. That's where our kids ministry will be housed, as well as our high school and middle school group of individuals. You can also see on this site plan, this area over here is a new rack of parking that we've installed in there as well. So the floor plan looks like this. You are right here, right? Let me see if there's my red dot. There you are. This is we're up above that. This is the current lobby out front. So let's go to the front. This is the courtyard. You would come in this way, and as you come in the new lobby area, this is 4,100 square feet of space. If you look directly off to your right, this whole corner over here will be where the donuts and coffee will be. If you looked off to your left, this corner would be our connection corner. It's where you get to know what's available and how you can get connected here at the church. And then when you come in, and if you take a hard left and look to the left, this whole area here would be the new entrance to the next gen building. So this area is a secured area. There's a door here that takes you into the high school and the middle school area, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then there's a door here, a secure door that takes you into the kids' space. This is an important space, and this front door is important, and I'll tell you why. Security has become a big deal across the country, and we need to make this place as secure as possible for everybody. And we deal with that really, I wouldn't say weekly, but definitely monthly. We deal with parents from the preschool and different people who are concerned about security. And so we're emphasizing security on this building. So the idea is that we would drive as many people as we could to the front door. We will be adding golf carts and things like that. We're going to need those during construction for sure. But we'll add that so people can get to the front door. But then when you come in here, this is going to be the check-in area for all the parents and the kids. And then when you come up here to the kids ministry area, obviously this is the infants room, the crawlers rooms, the pre-Ks, and as you go down the hallway, you get all the way back to a larger kids men space in the very back, so they could have a large group meetings in the back. And then back to over here to where middle school and high school is. This is going to be a wonderful space for you guys. There'll be multiple breakout rooms for everybody. Here's a couple breakout rooms. This will be a big gathering area. Those little squares there represent ping pong tables, and this will be a gathering area for you, which then goes into the large area. What I call this the romper room. I don't know if that's what we want to call it or not, but we probably will never be a chair in there. So you guys that use the fellowship hall now, we have kind of low ceilings. These are going to be very high ceilings. You could kick balls up into it. It won't mess up anything. It won't mess up the tiles. So we're excited about that. The other couple things about this floor plan, you can see here. Get my pointer working. Uh-oh, I lost my pointer. You can see the classrooms to both sides of the building. There's 4 main classrooms on both sides of the courtyard. We've expanded those. So right now there's 4 little ones, and we've expanded them so that there'll be bigger classrooms. Right now you can fit maybe 40 people in there really tight, and we have classrooms that are completely packed. So these will set up to 100 people each. And then once we get that part done, we will go back here and convert this part back here. We have a place that we want to create for the pastors because we're actually taking their place up front. So we're going to create a place for them to meet in the back and pray on Sunday mornings. And then we'll convert that to another meeting place, a Bible study place in the back. And then the last thing about this building is we also included in the numbers an upgrade to this sanctuary facility. So we put money in there for new pew cushions. As you can tell, they've had 25 years of wax and candles, and so they look a little bit rough. We've got carpet planned. We would like to put new technology, AVL technology, up on the screens and that kind of thing. So there's monies plugged in for that. And this is what it looks like from the outside. This little section in the back is where we currently enter, and this is the new 4,100 square feet section here, which will be the new lobby. The courtyard the whole courtyard will actually get torn up. We're going to reconfigure that, mainly because it will, just by the fact that we're doing construction out there. And then this building over here to the left is the next gen building. I think that's it there. And then this is the back of the building. This isn't quite 100% correct. This door that you see right here is actually the choir door. And as you guys know, there's a big ramp that goes up to that. That stays. And this little piece of building is in place. And then this is the new building here. So we got a little bit of landscaping to do for that. So that's project number 1. Project number 2, once we get this done, then we want to move all the ministries that we can from the other campus over to here. So all the youth ministries, all the next gen ministries, everything we can, we want to move over here. One thing I failed to mention on this building, we're also reconfiguring the kitchen. And the kitchen will be reconfigured so that it can handle a couple hundred people at any given time. So the new lobby should set about 200 people on round tables in that lobby. So things like Joy, things like the men's meeting groups, and anybody that wants to use that, there'll be a kitchen there available for them to use that. So once we've got this done, everybody moves over here, and then we'll go over to the Mandarin Road campus and reconfigure that. And that's a remodel project. And in that, what we're attempting to do is to set up on this front part of the building, which is where our current offices are right here. And this is currently Fellowship Hall right here. And this is the chapel. So the idea is to take this whole piece here, turn it into the admin part for the church. The new entrance to the admin building will be through the chapel, through here. And we'll park out here, in this area, and then people will come through the front doors here. And then this back building our goal is to secure this and make it very specific for the preschool. And you can see we've added some bathrooms down here. We want to move the real young kids from the Woody's area and move them into their own classrooms. We've got new bathrooms plugged in for that. And then the other part of this is that once we have these new offices configured, we can move the people that are in Bob and move them into the offices up front, and then we'll reconfigure Bob so they can handle more outreach ministry with the pantry. And that's a remodel. And then also included in this is some of the things that Andrew talked about, which is that building desperately needs a new roof. If we get a strong wind, we might get a new roof. And I'm serious about that. Plumbing is very bad. Well, it's not good. It's not good. If you've ever gone to Great Banquet, you know what I'm talking about. It's a challenge. So, and those are very big ticket items just to get those 2 items done. But the whole facility needs a little bit of a facelift. So, and then the third project is the one I'm pretty excited about, and this is the River House and the river property. And the goal here is to create I call it a sacred place, a place of peace, a place where all of us can go and use the River House. And the idea is to create this wonderful space that all of us can use. Right now there's a house on that property down by the river. It can only handle a few people at a time kind of thing. So that house would come down. As you know, if you've been back there, the property is a pie shape. This building would then be placed back further, actually beyond the drain field that's there now, if you know where that drain field is. And then on the back side of it, which I'll show you the back of the property, this is the back of it. This is all glass on the back side, from this side. This is all looking back out at the river on this side of it. And then there's this large overhangs that have been created so we can have seating out of the weather from there. The idea is that from this spot, from the back of the building all the way to the river, is to create a landscape prayer area. One of the things that will happen is we're going to have to remove the fountain out front in order to construct the new lobby. So the idea is to relocate the fountain there or figure out a place for a fountain in that location, but to create a serene place that all of us can participate in. And this is what the inside of that looks like. And you can see it's the outline of the building is the dotted line here. These are restrooms that have access out to the outside. This is all the glass on the back side of the building around here. And this is a kitchen that also has access to the patio area. And then we got a family room, and then this is where you come in. So this is open, this is movable. It'll be used for Bible studies, for training, for teaching. It can be used for Great Banquet. It can be used for lots of different things. It could be used for weddings, funerals, that kind of thing. But the idea is to create a worshipful, sacred place there. And so before I go to the last slide that I have, which is the money slide and how much all this is going to cost us, I just want to tell you that the church financially is in a really good place. And we have no debt on the property. We have no mortgages on the property. And as you know, too, from an operating perspective, we've increased our operating budget for the last 2 years pretty significantly. And you guys have all met that call to make that happen. So we're in a good place. And the cost, let me go to that. This is what was determined by the session and the team of 5 people that recommended up to the session. The launch goal is $7 million. So if we get to $7 million, we would launch the project, which would start here, and then we would work our way to the rest of the projects. The God goal, which we thought was real important, is $15 million, and that would encompass everything, all three projects. So that's my part of the presentation. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, so this is the pledge card. So the pledge card, we have copies of those that will be around. They're also in the back of those booklets, which if you haven't gotten one of the booklets yet, you can get one from the lobby. But I want to highlight something on there. When we talk about giving, there are 3 ways we're going to ask people to give. Courageously, consistently, and creatively. So courageously is to give a significant gift. So November 16th is our Commitment Sunday, and that's a Sunday that many of us will give the largest gift we've probably ever given to a church before. And what that gift will be able to do, that will help us launch into the construction and launch the projects, which we'll talk about a timeline in a few minutes. But then also giving consistently. So it's a 25-month campaign. So if you're giving a certain amount of money and you're wondering, okay, how do I space that out over 25 months? You can divide that up, obviously. Now, folks have asked me, so am I supposed to give courageously and consistently? And I said, well, if you want to, you can. But to reframe it a little differently, say you want to give $100 to the campaign or $100,000 to the campaign. You think about, okay, what can I afford to give on November 16th? And then take the difference and say, okay, what would it look like for me to space this out over the next 25 months? And then creatively, to give creatively. So we often think of what we have to give in terms of the dollars and dimes that we have in our bank account. So praying about how God may be calling us to give more creatively and expanding our imagination is something we need to do. So we have heard about people. There was one news program we saw from some tiny town in central Florida, Okla slap your mama or something like that, where this good old boy, his church was doing a capital campaign. He sold his boat, sold his old Camaro, and sold his favorite rifle and gave the money from that to the campaign. But actually, this afternoon, we went to an amazing lemonade stand down in St. Johns County that some of our kids were putting on, and the proceeds from that were going to Manor and Press. So there's so many different ways. We've had folks ask about giving jewelry and different things like that, but thinking about, okay, God, here's what I think I have to give. What am I not seeing? What am I not seeing? How can I invest in this in a way that I have no idea that I can do that? What are the creative ways that God can be prompting in you or in your family to be able to participate in this campaign? So giving courageously, giving consistently, giving creatively. So in terms of next steps, the most important one is to pray. Pray, pray, pray. Now going back to the ping pong balls in the lobby, which we want everybody to do one of those, no matter how young or how old. But what that signifies is that we're willing to take the next step of prayer. Praying to ask God, how do you want me to be a part of this? How are you calling me deeper into my walk with you and deeper into this journey of generosity? Please pray for our church that we would be the church that God's called us to be. Pray that we would be a church where we see more people moving towards Jesus, that we would be a church where every generation is being discipled towards Jesus, where we would be a church where we have a courageous faith, where we are inviting people into deeper community, deeper connections, and we're experiencing generosity in a whole life way. Pray that we would be that church. And that is important because no matter what happens with the campaign, no matter what happens with our country, no matter what happens with our culture, that's the church that God has wired us to be. That is the church that God has called us to be a church that is excited to see more people moving towards Jesus. I would invite you and ask you to pray for your leaders. Pray for the pastors in the session. Pray for Brian and his team as they work on this project. I talked to a dear friend who's done several campaigns as a pastor, and I asked him about a year ago, I said, what's the biggest piece of advice you could give me as we go into this? And without skipping a beat, he said, make sure you and your leadership are prayed up, because the devil always ramps up his attacks when our churches are doing campaigns. That it's like these moments where we're taking a huge step of faith, a courageous step that is going to have a tremendous impact on the community and on the world. The devil doesn't want to see that happen, so the devil wants to discourage and divide, but greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And so pray for our church. Pray for God's protection. Pray for courage in our leaders. Pray for wisdom in our leaders, protection for our families as well. I want to encourage you to dig into God's word, dig into our Nehemiah study, and participate in one of the sermon-based small groups. Be reading along with Nehemiah and getting deeper into God's word. Pay attention to key events that are coming up. And if you have questions, Brian and I are available to talk to you. You can call us, email us. We can grab coffee or breakfast or barbecue, anything you want, and we can sit down with you and answer any questions you have, pray with you about your commitment or any questions that you have. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want to have a conversation or want to ask more details about this. Now, we are going to have the Momentum section in our lobby set up every Sunday, so you'll be able to ask questions of Brian and our elders there. You can always pull us aside and ask us questions. But if you have questions, please, please, please don't hesitate to ask them. Don't hesitate to ask those questions. Okay, before we wrap up, I'm going to give you our top frequently asked questions. We've had folks ask us various questions, so we sort of bundled these together. We had about 40 or 50 questions already that we bundled together in these final few slides. So I'm going to invite Brian to come up here, and we're going to tag team these. So the first one is this. What is the timeline for construction? Is there an order to the projects? How long will it take?
Yes, there is a timeline. So the timeline for construction would be, for this phase here, would be first quarter, second quarter of next year. We're working on the plans right now, and they should be done by the end of this year. We'll submit for permit, and that's when we'll get started, first or second quarter. And then it will take us about 12 to 14 months from the time we start to finish this project. And how long will it take? And the order of the projects are this piece, the Mandarin Road piece, and then the river property.
Okay. How are we going to meet our financial goals? This is one that I get quite a bit. What does it look like for us to make these financial goals? Now, they put together these charts for us. So the launch goal of $7 million, you probably can't read that up there, and that's okay. I'll tell you that it's structured that we need large gifts and we need small gifts. We need less large gifts, but we need the large ones, and we need the small ones as well. With the $15 million God goal, we need even more of those. Here's the key with it. We all have to do our part. We all have to do our part. It's not about equal gift, but it's about equal sacrifice. That we're all making ourselves available for God to use us in this. Now, a question that's been asked about how to reach this goal, we have been asked, well, have we considered selling the Mandarin campus and selling the river property as well? And I would say we did consider that. We very briefly considered that. But what we realized is that with all the ministries going on, we can't fit all of the ministries on one campus. Let alone moving those ministries here. So we would have to move the preschool here, move the offices here, and the money that we would get from selling those properties would be a drop in the bucket of what we actually need for this. But thinking about the long-term health and the long-term growth of our church, we're a landlocked church. We're a landlocked church here in the heart of Mandarin, and losing property is not a great strategy. And I would say with how we raise the funds to do this is that thinking about the long-term good, thinking about the long term of the ministry that's going to happen through our church, through these projects, through these campuses, that is a priceless investment. When we think about a legacy for us to leave in the church and leave in the community, this is one that will transform thousands and thousands and thousands of lives and families in the years to come. And that is an amazing, amazing opportunity. I'll say some more about that in a bit, but let's keep moving. Okay. What are different ways that we can give, and how do we do so? Will you take Bitcoin, Brian, or 401k? Can I donate my Pokemon cards?
Yes, you can.
Or
yes,
my Beanie Baby collection from 1983? Or Jeff's?
All of the above. All of the above. So if you have distributions that you need to make, stock you want to sell, Bitcoin, we have the ability to capture all of that and take it. So yes. And your Pokemon cards, we'll take those too.
if you have questions on how to donate things, call Brian, talk to Brian, and he will help you with that. How will this affect our operating budget?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Well, I look at it two different things. There's the operating budget, and then there's the campaign. And so for Tammy and I, we're just going to continue with what we give on the operating side. And as you guys know, our number's been around $3 million. It's $3.1 million annually. The staff has worked really well, really hard to get prepared for next year's budget. We're keeping it basically the same. They did not, they cut their budget basically. So I see it as two different things. So Tammy and I will continue to give what we give to make sure that 3.1 million or so comes through the door so we can keep operating at a high level. But then on the other side, it's over and above. And so Tammy and I are thinking about that, praying about that, trying to figure out what God's telling us to do for the campaign. So it won't affect our operating budget. And the only other thing I would say is that we did the modeling on it. So if we were to build it all, we know what that model looks like, as far as insurance and utilities and the cost of what it takes to have bigger facilities. That's all been modeled out as well for our operating for out in 28 and 29. Is that good?
Yes. All right, last question. You can sit down if you want. You don't need to.
Stand.
Can we get a round of applause for Brian? Tammy was feeding him answers the whole time from the front pew. It was wonderful. Okay, so how will this affect our current ministries? You can just imagine this. Okay, wait a second, Andrew. So we're getting a new lobby in front of the current lobby. How are we going to get into the new lobby? Wait a second. So we're adding that building over there. What's happening with the nursery and the classrooms out there? Those are getting redone. Okay, how is that going to work? Oh, the River House is going down. So what about the ministries there? How are those things going to work? What about Sunday morning worship, great banquets, small groups, extravaganza, Scamp, Windshape, Crave, Hang 10, so many different ministries going on all of our campuses. We are a busy, busy church throughout the week on all of our campuses. So we can just all take a collective sigh with this. I've asked Brian, sort of jokingly, but maybe this can be our next t-shirt design. But I want two banners. One that says, "It's going to get worse before it gets better." And the other one that says, "Everybody else is inconvenienced too." It's going to be a significant transition for us as a congregation. On the other side of it, we're going to have amazing new spaces. We're going to be able to do so much more creative ministry, build so much more community, dive deeper into God's word, and make room for more people to move toward Jesus. That's the point of all this, to make room. We don't have room for who God has currently brought here, let alone the people he has yet to bring here. So we need to make that room. Now, what happens with the ministries, number one, here, we are going to maintain access to the bathrooms here, so don't worry if you are already wondering about that. But we're going to lose for a period all of the classrooms and the courtyard in front, which means we'll need to enter worship through the back doors. And as we think about those inconveniences alone, the only way for us to overcome those inconveniences, doing better signs is just a drop in the bucket to that, but it's going to be the human touch. It's going to be you. It's going to be me. It's going to be us helping people find their way around this campus. And this church has amazing volunteerism. You are always willing to give of your time and your energy, and to do so joyfully and faithfully. We're going to need to do that. We are going to be inconvenienced, and it's going to be all right. We are perfectly capable of this. Now, there's an order to the projects, as Brian said. So the first project is what's going to happen on this campus. and the $7 million will get us launched into this project. We cannot kick that can down the road any farther. We've been kicking that can down the road for the last 25 years. We need to take this step and take it together. We need to have spaces that are created intentionally for community and for discipling all of our generations, especially our youngest generations, the security upgrades that we need with that. We need to do that. Now, that's not going to be done. If we're looking from now, it's not going to be done for probably 2 years, a little more than 2 years. We cannot touch the Mandarin campus and the remodel there until this project is done. So anything that's going on down at the other campus is going to continue to go on at the other campus for the next couple of years, and we have time to figure out, for example, with Great Banquet, okay, what does this next chapter look like in Great Banquet and the amazing story that God has been writing through that ministry? We'll have very intentional space and a wonderful space. And Brandon Gober and Micah and Wendy and Pastor Jen, they have been so helpful in making sure the spaces that are designed here for our youth, for our students, for our children, for our families is designed very intentionally. I mean, think about what our amazing Kidman staff has been able to do over the years with the room off the back hallway. Imagine what it'll be like when we have space that is designed for its purpose, where we don't have to take other space and make it work, but it's designed for what we're using it for. On the River House property, we can do the project on the river property at the same time as we're doing this project. If the gifts come in for that and God provides for that and that's in His timing, that would be a wonderful thing to do. That space is going to be beautiful. It is going to be amazing. I had a friend that I was walking through all of these different projects, and he stopped and he described it back to me this way. He said, I love the way this comes together because it feels like the Loretto campus, so this campus, you have all of the ministries going on. This has all sorts of things going on throughout the day, throughout the night, throughout the week. There's all this hubbub going on and ministry. And then you move over to the preschool campus and you have the business of the church during the week. You have the office meeting, you have the offices there, maybe a couple of conference rooms. You have the preschool that is continuing to just thrive. And then you go back to the River campus and you have this retreat space. Like you leave the busyness of this, you leave the business of the Mandarin campus, and you go back towards the river, and you are welcomed into God's amazing creation. The building in that space there, we went back and forth with it. I had some terrible ideas for what to do back there that fortunately we have much wiser leaders than me involved in this. But what I love about that space is we talked about, okay, is this a multi-purpose space that can be set up and used for worship, or is this a worship space that can be used for other things? And we said, this needs to be a worship space first, a holy space, a space that when you go into that building, when you go into that chapel, you are invited into the reverence and peace and majesty of God's creation. That property is going to be a sacred space for groups to gather and study God's word, for groups to gather and pray together. It's going to be a space for lives to be transformed. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. Friday morning, I received an email from a member of our congregation who was at the Vision Gathering on Thursday. And she said to me, "Thank you so much for the presentation. You and the staff are working hard," which is wonderful. I appreciate that. She said, "When I first heard about the campaign and heard about how much this was going to cost, I thought, where is that going to come from? And then I started to think about, what about the widows and orphans? And then I realized that as I was making those calculations in my head, I had not included what God can do. in those plans. Now, the person who sent this to me is a widow in our congregation. And so to hear a widow say to the pastor, what about the widows and orphans? I'm like, oh man. But then to hear the encouragement and the faith in it but then I remembered how big our God is. That morning, she said, my Bible study, her devotional happened to be in Exodus 35. Exodus 35 is when Moses is saying to the congregation or to the Israelites, needing all the materials to be donated for the wilderness tabernacle and for the worship of God. And people started coming forward and giving and giving and giving and giving. And eventually, Moses had to tell them to stop because they had too much. And she said, I can't help but wonder and look forward to what is God going to do through this and through our church. I mean, what an amazing, courageous faith. I hope as we move into this season and the weeks that are ahead, the months, the years that are ahead, we would listen. Listen to how God may be calling you and calling us to do our part. To do our part in this amazing vision He's given our church and the story that God has been writing for the last 65 years right here in the heart of Mandarin. Okay, I'm going to invite Pastor Jen to come up and close us in prayer. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you want, if you can stick around, Brian and I and some of our other leaders, we'll be in the lobby. We can answer questions about the projects. I hope you got your T-shirt. That was the charge for the free pizzas that you have to wear the T-shirt now. So you can wear these T-shirts on Sunday morning. And thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, Pastor Jen.
All right, let's pray together. Lord, we are thankful for what you are doing in this space we sit in tonight, the spaces of our other campuses, and what you are doing in our own lives. And as we sit here and listen to this invitation to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves, part of something that will impact the faith and lives of people, not only us, but others, I pray that you would be with us in our own discipleship, our own wrestling with generosity and what you are calling us to give and to do. And I pray that we can have a position of being excited, of looking and trusting and believing that you will give us what we need, that we won't be overwhelmed by the price tag, but excited to see what you will do. So God, be with each of us. Continue to deepen us, draw us near to you, and work through us as we impact the lives of others, not only in this place, but in our community and in the world. We pray all of this in your name. Amen.